Hi, I'm Terry Klein. This is 10 Minutes on Songs. This week we're going to be talking about sources of inspiration. The short answer for songwriters out there, I think, is that your sources of inspiration need to be as infinite as the universe itself. Your childhood, your family, the life you lead, the life you wish you led, movies you've seen, music that you've loved, paintings that you've loved or hated, books that you've loved or hated. All of that needs to be creative fuel for you when you sit down at your writing table and set yourself to writing your next song. I want to talk about an instance from my own experience that was quite a bit more circuitous, that is the song Andalusia, which is the sixth track on my most recent record, Text. Again, the name of the song is Andalusia. Andalusia is about an author named Flannery O'Connor, who was from Georgia. She wrote during the middle part of the 20th century. She wrote a couple novels, I think at least one, maybe two novels, but mostly the area in which she's most kind of adored is her short fiction. In early 2016, I was in the process of moving from being a full-time practicing lawyer and litigator and trial lawyer and moving to becoming a full-time singer and songwriter. And right at about that time, I picked up this book, which is the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor. I just had heard such wonderful things about her writing, and I'd seen some quotes from her as well about the kind of the creative process and about just kind of being alive that I thought were really kind of witty and wise, and had a little bit of edge of humor to them. So I was surprised when I started reading her stories that they were all so dark, and she really explores the human condition in situations where humans are not nice to each other, or where they're in situations that are difficult or excruciating, even. And it's story after story of that. The writing is beautiful. But after a little while, again in early 2016, I just kind of couldn't handle it anymore. So I put the book to one side, and I can't remember what I read instead. In June and July of 2016, we moved from Boston to Austin, Texas, and we drove across, me and my wife and our two daughters. We stopped in Knoxville on one of the nights, and there's a really wonderful little independent bookstore in Knoxville that I cannot for the life of me remember the name of, but it's right in the center of town. And as I was kind of flipping through their collection there, it's really they just did a great job of picking out really cool books. I found this, not actually this copy, but this book called The Habit of Being, which is a collection of letters written by Flannery O'Connor. And I sat down and I started writing them and reading them, and they were so different from the tone of her stories. There was a lightness and a wit and a sense of humor and a sense of almost hope that you don't see in her stories. So I started looking through this, and I looked a little bit more into Flannery's background. She was born Mary Flannery O'Connor, and went to a small college in Georgia, and then went to the Iowa Writers Workshop in the late 40s and early 50s, and started writing short fiction that was winning prizes and all that kind of stuff. And it was really on her ascent was steep. She was working her way up. In 1952, though, she was diagnosed with lupus, and at that point in 1952, that was basically a death sentence. She went to live with her mom on their family farm. The name of that farm is Andalusia. And right at that time, there were significant advances in the treatment of lupus, And so rather than living for the 8 months that the doctor said that she would live, she went on to live for another 13 years. She kept peacocks. She wrote these letters to her friends and to fans and to agents and all different kinds of folks, and just led this really rich, interesting life, even though she was kind of getting progressively sicker. So getting back to kind of the idea behind the song, her dark short stories, as I was kind of working my way through my songs, the first really serious good batch of songs, they covered some serious dark territory. And I felt like at that point, if Flannery O'Connor couldn't just write dark short stories, then I can write just dark songs. Now, not all of my songs are dark, but a lot of them are. So fast forward to September of 2016, and I went to my first Southwest Regional Folk Alliance conference. And at that conference, I met this wonderful songwriter from Arkansas named Aaron Smith. And I'm not sure how it came up, but late one night we were talking, and I said, just what I just said, if Flannery O'Connor can write only dark stories, then I can write only dark songs. And he said, oh, I love that. Can I just give you a hug? I can't believe you said that. That was an interesting interaction, because I felt like Flannery O'Connor kind of, for some odd reason, she causes people to have strong emotional reactions. And as a songwriter, your ears get kind of perked up at those moments when you think of these things that people have strong emotional reactions to. Now, one of the interesting, funny things about Flannery O'Connor, given the darkness of her fiction, is that people on the right wing of American politics have seized on some of her writings about religion and politics and try to kind of beat people over the heads with them. I'm not sure if they've read some of her fiction, because her fiction is again really dark and about humanity kind of at its worst. I don't know. That's a digression. But so I thought to myself, let's see, is it possible for me to write a song about Flannery O'Connor and about her experience at Andalusia and her experience of thinking she was about to die and not dying, and about her devotion to her creative process. And so I went to the library here in Austin and picked up a copy of The Habit of Being and sat and read through it over the course of several months, and made notes about images that I thought would be interesting and that could lend themselves to songs. And I really slaved over this particular song. There are verses after verses that are X'd out in the writing notebook. There are choruses that I tried and discarded, and I finished it. I thought I'd finished it, and so I started to play it for friends in small groups, and they really liked it to a degree that kind of surprised me, because I'd been living with it so closely for so long. So I started to play it out, and even though, a lot of people who listen to it haven't read any Flannery O'Connor, there are aspects of the song, her perseverance, her dedication to her craft, that I think really speaks to people. And so when it came time to sort of sort through, my favorite songs for this most recent record, this was one of them, and I really love the way it came out. But again, there are some songs I write where I just get kind of a spark of inspiration, and I write them in a morning, over the course of a couple hours or a few hours. This was different. This was, I feel like, weeks of sitting with Flannery's letters, of sitting and trying to make sure that as I wrote this song, I was honoring her appropriately. And I do like the way that it came out. So that's Andalusia. That's kind of my long, circuitous story about the inspiration for Andalusia and how it happened. And drop any thoughts you have or comments in the comments. I'll try to drop a link to the song into the comments too if you want to listen to it. And we will have the objective of assembling here next week to talk about something else. And I'm not sure what that is yet. But everybody, hope you're doing well. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And we'll talk soon.